We'll just make it happen.
The East
Yeah,
Road
that's cool.
Podcast.
Are you listening?
Biggie.
Crazy mother.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the podcast. This is the East Roast Podcast. I'm Tony, and I'm with my partner, as always. That's Chris Cobb.
Chris, man, yo, hey, I'm here, Chris Kai. Don't forget to listen, man. Subscribe. I know that the algorithm have changed and you get it anyway and you see it all day, but we need you to subscribe so that we can prove to people that people like us. Because right now my wife, she's like, I don't know if they really like you. So, and honestly, if I don't want my wife to cuss at me, you got to subscribe.
That's right.
This is a true plead for subscription. So don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification button. We on with Instagram, Twitter. I think you can come by my cousin's house also.
That's
you
right,
just
yeah.
Fill out your email.
They've been all over our Facebook, though, man.
Facebook,
We appreciate the love on Facebook.
Thank you. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Let's keep growing and tell a friend. I mean, if you have a friend, if you don't have a friend, just go tell a random person. If everybody tells one random person,
You might make a new friend.
Exactly. That's exactly how I make friends. I tell them about stuff.
That's
whether they
right.
want to hear it or not.
So,
How you doing, Tony?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good to
It's
see
been
you,
a
bro.
long week.
Yeah,
You been hanging
man.
out?
We got a couple of them we're doing today.
Yeah.
Got a guest coming for the next one.
Yeah. Hey, yo, like the lineup of guests we got coming, man. It's going to be a good
We got
time.
a lot of great guests coming up too. You know, in January we have 2 Ink Masters coming.
Woo! I like
yeah,
them both.
yeah.
They both were great.
We got a couple comics on the way, and also, you know, we're doing some things over here. Hopefully, you guys will be here to watch us.
If you're an Ink Master fan and you know who Kyle and Christian both are, they're both great.
Yeah,
Ink Masters.
yeah.
I like them both. If we can get Tattoo Baby here, which I know she's West Coast, but I just like Tattoo Baby.
Well, you know what? They're all at that Philly tattoo show, man. That's what it is. So that's where I got the call. Christian Buckingham, if you guys remember him, he was great on the show. He was coming to the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention. That's in January. I think it's the 16th or 17th, something like that. And then Kyle Dunbar gave me a call. That was just yesterday, actually. So we just booked him too. So we're gonna have 2 of them. They might be on the same podcast. We might split it up, but I mean, 2 really interesting guys.
And also on top of that, hey, if anybody else, if y'all want to reach out, listen, you could also email us at eastroastpodcast@gmail.com. Email us. We cool with that. We'll take an email. You can just message us up on our Facebook, or you can go on YouTube and just send us a message there. Either way, you can get in contact with us. If you're just saying, hey, I got a cousin or a brother or whatever who they don't got to be just tattoos, but if you think somebody interesting we should maybe interview, let us know. We'll talk to you. Well, also, that doesn't mean it's a guarantee because some people are just crazy.
Yeah.
So we got to gauge through the crazy and also engaging. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
It's always a terrifying.
So speaking of crazy, though, I mean, you always come up with some crazy topics. So I was just curious. You said you had one.
Oh yeah.
What was the thing we were going to be talking about today?
I have just so you know, I'm married. Most of y'all don't know that. I've talked about it a lot, but I am married, and my wife, one of her friends, I used to date one of her friends. This was when we were in high school. I used to date. Okay. A little bit more backstory to this, okay?
Start right from the beginning.
Let me back it up. Now, me and my wife were talking, as the kids say. We weren't dating. Right. We were having conversations, and while I was having a conversation with her, one lady I was dating, which is her now friend, we were actually dating. I was awful. I was an awful human being. I was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
But now we were actually dating. It wasn't heavy. It was light. It was a light dating in high school. You know what I mean? And I still was talking to now the current wife. Okay, me and the one who she later on now became friend with, we dispersed ways, no hard feelings. We just knew it wasn't meant to be. You know what I mean? You know how like sometimes you just feel it with some people like you're a cool person, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
We never did anything. Meaning we never. I don't think that I even get. I think I might have hit second base in the base form, old bases. I don't know what these new bases are.
Yeah, I don't know. Second base might mean something completely.
You know what I mean? But the old second base used to just be like a boob grab. You know what I mean? A fondling. You know what I mean? A fill up.
Yeah.
I didn't even get like hand in pants. You know what I mean?
Right.
I got top stuff, no bottom stuff. Now.
That's all PG stuff now, man. It's like, you know.
I could have been a Disney movie. We was doing Disney movie stuff. And considering that, like that was as far as that went. Now, fast forward, time moves on. They became friends casually. Then, after becoming friends, she learned that I was talking to them at the same time.
You never told her.
I never told anything. I am a vault, bro. I am a complete.
See, the problem is you never know who you can tell. I mean, we actually talked about that a few weeks ago, right?
Well,
you don't know what stage you're in the early stages with a relationship, right? So, you can get caught up into that thing where, the person that you didn't tell something to ends up being the person that, you marry. And then, there's that secret that maybe you didn't even think you were keeping, but you did.
With that situation, because all right, when I used to figure out who I'm going to talk to, especially if they were all in school, if it was a school situation,
right?
When I was in high school, I always did a lot of. It was never just me going in gung ho like, oh, she's cute. Oh, I thought about the whole thing of who's friends with who. Back in those days, you didn't have to worry about like social media either.
Right.
So it was just knowing friendship.
You had to know people.
Knowing people's types.
Well, yeah, and you knew who their circles were.
And they honestly, that was the most iffy too. Out of everybody else, the other ones never found out about each other. No one else found out about anything else.
Right.
Just those two, I was like, this is real. This is playing it real close. And I knew it. I was playing with fire from day one. I was like, they are in two different circles, but their circles literally are right next to each other.
Yeah, they could easily meld together.
At any moment, one of them, like my wife is a cheerleader, the other girl wasn't. She didn't do anything. She was not a after school person. She would go home. You know what I mean? Now, but they had friends who were interested. Like the girl who didn't go out, she had friends who were interested in cheerleading and stuff. And I was like, this is real iffy. Because if she makes it on a team, you never know. Like, next thing you know, is a conversation can be had. Oh, him too. And basically, end of the day, what happened was they figured out that I had a class with one of them. And it wasn't trust me, it wasn't a thing where they poured a Monica and Brandy on me. It wasn't that aggressive. It was they just found out, and when they came to me with it, she was like, yeah, did you talk to – I was like, yep. Like, there's no hesitation. I'm like, yeah. Well, how come you never – why did you need to know that? It's not important. It wasn't.
It's crazy, though, because I think, if you don't – now, I actually have a friend that and I guess it kind of still never really came out, but there's a story that, in our circle of friends that my buddy's wife, many, many years earlier, had a little fling with one of our friends in the circle. So the thing is that I have no idea, really, to tell you the truth. I wasn't there, so
if you
but
out in the room,
but I don't know what it is. I mean, are you like now caught in because he had thought at least that he had found something out through a rumor. And now it's like something that's really, for a while there, it really consumed him. He's like, were you with him? Were you with him? And we see this guy all the time. And you say to yourself, like, so let's just say it really did happen. Let's just say they really were. I guess you have to say something, right? You have to tell, because if this is a person that's going to be in your circle, I don't know, or am I wrong? Maybe you can't tell because they're in your circle.
You'd have to know where the emotions were, could be, and currently are. You need to know exactly where people it's not.
You have to know. You have to know how strong someone is too with information. I mean, there are some people that I guess. I mean, you could give someone advice, right, and say, well, look, you got to straighten that thing out. You got to come clean. But not everybody is, we talked about the truth, too, and people hate the truth.
Right, not as forthright as you. The thing is, okay, all right, now, with the situation for me, of an dating situation, and then it's coming, the discussion between me and the quote-unquote ex never had to take place. That's not important. That's not important. But a discussion between me and the wife, or if you're in a girlfriend situation, current girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, you have to have a conversation and let you know, look, this is where it was. Yeah. This is how I felt about it. This is truly how far the emotions went, and this is where I am right now. Yeah. Either if you do care, be honest. Because if it's uncomfortable for you that they're even friends, you can say, look, man, y'all can hang out. I just don't. It's not something I want to be around. You know what I mean? I don't still feel comfortable enough to be around this person. Like, it was one of those situations. The reason why I even bring this up at all was, I remember one time me and my wife had to have a conversation because she was just like let's say end of the night comes, all the girls, they were out drinking, I'm picking up everybody, and she's like, I'm dropping off. I would always strategically, of course, keep my wife in the car.
Right.
Of course, then she's got to go for the ride for everybody's drop
Yeah.
off. But I remember she also lives, the friend lives about 5 minutes away from us. One night, my wife's like exhausted. I'm like, all right. She's like, well, can you drop me off? And I said, okay, I'll drop you off. Then I'll drop her off. I don't really care. And this one of the things, after a while, I didn't care. But it was a long time in the years where I just kind of kept a safe distance from her. Not in the sense of I thought that she liked me or anything. It was just like, just common courtesy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is we had a history.
Yeah.
And until I feel like the wife is truly understands, like, I don't care,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to keep a safe distance.
It's a really uncomfortable position, though, you know,
Yeah.
that you're in.
Also-
You know, another thing, too, there's such huge differences between what, like, to you, that's a nothing thing, right? It's just you guys kind of started to create some kind of a connection, and it never really ended up being anything that was too far. The funny thing is, though, for women, those connections in some ways are bigger, because women connect with men differently than men connect with women. So a lot of times they feel like you have this connection that's going to last, and that is. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. I mean, that emotional connection sometimes to them feels bigger.
1,000%. Well, for that, I'm thinking of it. You know what it is? I'm thinking of it from a personal perspective of that actual connection. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like those emotional contacts, and if there are any emotional points hit, you know what I mean, where there's tent poles there emotionally. That matters. You know what I mean?
And that and that could be why it's maybe a little dangerous to wait and not tell those things, because it actually gives the illusion that you're protecting maybe what could be an emotional connection. Would you agree with that? Or
I agree.
yeah.
No, I agree.
Now you and I wouldn't think that way, but see, again, women do think that way. Yeah,
some dudes do leave a door cracked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying again. When I talk about almost everything, I talk about it from a very real standpoint. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, like I said, I was not I was raised predominantly by men, and I know the game of how to talk to women for the most part. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh man, that's not a thing that happened. Oh no, dudes leave cracks. Dudes leave. They create. I would guess patterns,
right,
to make sure that those cracks don't even look like cracks. You know?
Yeah.
It's depending on how deep this person is. Some dudes are idiots. Some dudes are complete idiots. They think they smoother than they are. But if you're dealing with a dude who actually knows what he's doing, and he knows how to play the quote unquote game, just the game of life in general. But then on top of that, the game meaning like building relationships with women and stuff. Oh, it gets ugly. You know what I mean? Because they make things nothing looks like anything. But they got 15 things working at once, and it can be sad, man. Like playing with people emotionally like that. Also, it's like I don't know how much like of this, like a percentage of how much you should even share your past. I don't think personally, and this is not a thing. I don't think that much of your past is that important.
You know what I think is I'm going to use one of your words that I love. You always say things are terrifying. What's terrifying are people who have no past.
Oh,
because let me tell you something, your past, I mean, although people don't like to deal with your past, they don't like to deal with the people that you dated or whatever like that. You've gotten through a lot of the bull with them. Mm-hmm. You've figured out your own flaws. You started to see the things that you don't want to see in someone else again. But people who have no past, and they just don't have a body of relationship work that they've worked over. I mean, that's kind of terrifying to have to deal with somebody and have to, especially later, as you get older, to deal with people that just don't have that kind of thing. So there's a blessing in that, really.
I would say unless you had a upbringing where you just didn't get into a relationship, you didn't do it, whatever, and things just didn't work out for you in that manner. Most people who say, well, nothing happened in the past, and even with those people who have nothing, generally something led to you having nothing.
Yeah, and that's the terrifying part, right?
That sounds crazy. You know what I mean? But some
people like, nobody. Why didn't you have any boyfriend? Why didn't anybody seem, like you?
That might be a thing where honestly there is a disconnect of something that happened in their family where it just created a huge disconnect between wanting to do this and being in a relationship, and that's also a thing in a relationship you have to deal with. You know what I mean? Is that disconnect? So when I say it's like, I feel like out of your past, and this is a personal percentage I came up with, I think that you only really should give up depending on your past specifically, somewhere between 50 to 75%. Keep 25 for yourself.
Right, right, yeah, okay.
Look, keep 25 for yourself, and if you have to dip into the 25, that's as needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in your past equity, you should at least keep 25. You can give away up to 75%.
Now, what's the just to explain the thought process around that? I mean, what is the why is the 75 safe and not the 100?
All right, now, okay. 75 is safe because you're giving out, usually inside that 75, you got your sexual past, you got like
which is always
history.
The hardest thing for people
the sexual
to
past
accept.
is kind of one of those things you have to give up because you're going to enter, you're doing stuff, hopefully with this individual where you're using protection and things like that after a while, so you have to kind of be very open with your sexual past, you know what I mean? Aside from that, and plus they need to know if there's any chance of you maybe rehashing things from your past.
Right.
They can say, I love you, but I don't 100% trust that aspect of you. So let's keep it at this distance. And the day when I say let's open up that door of being completely like no protection at all, you know that's because my trust level has risen. I think you have to also respect somebody who says something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But it covers just everything that needs to know, like inside. Mostly the stuff that creates who you are emotionally. As much as you can give away of that, that's best. But some stuff like that 25% that you keep, that's fun stories, man. That's
that's true.
Stuff
that's true.
Really doesn't add into anything.
Yeah.
It's just.
And I think part of the 25% that you're talking about too is there's there's more than just who you're with in your past. Sometimes there's painful things that happened when you were growing up. There was things. Those things, you actually do have to build even a more deeper, strong relationship and trust with someone that goes way beyond the first base, second base, third base, and straight, and maybe that is the 25% that it's probably a large percentage of the 25% that you say, because
it's at least 5% of that.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about past, obviously the first thing you think of is your sexual past or your dating past and stuff like that. But, people come into relationships and really you're really putting yourself out there. You're giving somebody, your heart. And sometimes some things are really hard, to give. And that relationship sometimes can teach you to let that out. So a large percentage of that 25, I kind of get what you're saying.
No, and you know what I'm saying? And I would say this. Everybody's 25% is different. Because I can give away. It's
all in life.
Certain things emotionally. It's a fire sale, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But some things emotionally is like I keep. There's about 5 to 10% that the world gets it in very tiny megabytes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then my wife gets it, and she might have a gig of it, but that's as much as I'm like. And it's hard. I'm like I'm trying, but it's really hard. It's a lot. You know what I mean? There's sometimes you don't even know it. Sometimes there's doors that you still trying to find the keys for. You know what I mean? You still got your lock out. You got keys, and you're like, it's a whole key ring here.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get into this.
See, like, you seem like, when people meet you, you seem like you're an open book. You're just kind of, you're just out there and enjoying life and saying what you want. But the funny thing is, we got to get to that too.
That's funny.
Right there, man. What my dad did. You got to check out the book, Chris Cotton.
Literally an open book.
Yeah.
ChrisCottonComedy.com.
That's right. But there's going to be another book, I think, because, knowing you as long as I have now, I still see these little things that trickle out that you say to yourself, like, he's not an open book. He doesn't give you everything all at once. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a level of trust and there's a level of trust. So even in friendships, we were just talking about relationships, but it goes much further than that. You're talking about friendships. You're talking about a lot of different things. Relationships across the board. I do think you're right about that 75%.
Mm-hmm. That's max.
Because that 25% is the dangerous side. Yeah. It's the part where you say to yourself, now only only a very small amount of people will ever know the things that maybe hurt me or the things that I fear or, things like that.
Man, you can't be going out there giving everybody your Achilles.
I know.
Like that's how they got it. That's how they got, what's the homie from Troy? Achilles, right?
That's right.
They as soon as you start giving out what your weakness is, now everybody
you don't want anybody to know where your kryptonite is. Yeah.
And I would say only time you can start giving out your kryptonite if you're already working on it where it's not your kryptonite.
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that's why when I talk about like my depression and stuff, that doesn't mean most of the time when I talk about like I just put up a post the last few, like week or so about me going through depression. And people hit me up afterwards like, you all right, you all right? And I appreciate it and I love it. But they don't get it. But most time by the time I hit that point where I'm willing to talk about it, I'm already 90% okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm at the last 10%. I can see the finish line of where I was feeling. So I'm like, let me post about it. Every now and then I just put up those posts because I know somebody needed to hear it.
Yeah.
It is hard to do it. You know what I mean? To put that stuff out.
There's so many people that deal with that, and it's one of the things I really respect, you for is that is not one of your 25% that you hold back. Mm-hmm. You let people realize, you tell people, it was, but it isn't now. And I think part of it is because so many people feel like they're alone. They feel like, that they have these anxieties, they have these panic attacks, and they have these, even a little bit of self-doubt. And that's what, it brings to you from having that. If no one ever talks about it, if no one, freely and openly talked about it, I mean, this would be, just, killing folks, all the time.
Real talk. One of the things that I've been noticing the most about with the book and everything I've been doing, and a lot of people who want to like purchase the book from me, I'll go to clubs, I'll perform, I'll have a great set. People, oh man, you're hilarious. Come, shit, man. A few people here and there. Most of the people who always buy my book are the blue collar people, because when you see somebody like myself go up on stage and I'm telling these stories and and then you hear me and I reference certain things about like depression and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's not my set, but it's intermingled in some of the topics.
Yeah.
I talk about growing up tough but then you see it's like, oh, but this dude is still around, he's still doing stuff. A lot of the blue collar folks, like people who work at the club, buy my book a lot because to them it's like, if this dude, I can tell at one point he would have this job.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it's security people, bar backs. Like this is the true people who buy the book from me.
Yeah.
But this is honestly who I wrote the book for.
Yeah.
It's for people who feel like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Everybody has to, again, they have to be open, but they also have to have their outlet, their thing that kind of, that helps them. For you, it's comedy. I mean, you find, you have the same problems, the same pains, the same things that other people deal with. You have found an outlet where you can wrap it up into a joke, send it out there to the world, and you see the laughs, and it almost takes away that weight. Yeah. And you say to yourself, like, it's pretty amazing, but why is it funny? Because a lot of people that are in that, in that room have similar problems. Mm-hmm. And they get that joke in a way where it even probably softens their weight. So it's a pretty powerful thing that you have there. And again, the book, listen, you can get the book at chriscottoncomedy.com. I'm going to have it across the bottom a couple of times. You'll see it go by. Mm-hmm. I would suggest you check it out. There's a lot more to the book than that. But Chris is he's
I'm pretty loose with certain information. And that was funny you said to me, it feels like I am an open book. And me and my friend, all right, who's also a comic, Monroe Martin. He's one of my best friends. He grew up in the foster care. He wasn't. He was a foster care dude. He grew up in that system. He talks about it on stage. That's why I don't mind talking about. But he had mother who was on drugs, whatever. So you know what I mean. He was in and out of living at home and then living at foster care, whatever. Right now, me and him talked about this though a long time ago. How me and him got so used to, like, my mom was sick growing up. His mom was on drugs, which is funny. Sick kids, like if you got a mom who's sick or just in any way there but not there, we tend to all kind of gather and meet each other if we can, and we talk. We get real cool. Me and him was talking about how we're so good at having conversations about everything and at the same time hiding everything.
Yeah.
Like, we have almost, it's like
I feel like I have a little bit of that myself. I mean, I don't know.
Almost everybody sends out an avatar. You know what I mean? Like, if you're smart, if you grew up tough, if you have traumatic pains, you have an avatar that you put out there that's like, this is part of my 75% is this avatar. He comes and presents the 75%. Right. That 25 is mine. For years, I only was giving out 50%.
Yeah. You know I want to make a quick point, because this, I don't know why this kept coming into my head, but it might even resonate with you, because I think we all know guys like this. And women like this too, really, but mostly men, I notice. You ever see that, like, almost would seem like that angry older guy, that you can't approach, and he just seems like if you ask him a question, he'll just, he'll snap out on you or whatever like that. So, that guy is, usually married to a woman. Mm-hmm. And let's flip it around. There's women like that too, and they're married to a man. The funny thing is that, if you talk to their wife or their husband, and they know them as a different person. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you, I know a side of them that you don't know.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, I wouldn't want to get to that point in my life where I'm older and I'm that angry or whatever like that. But they got probably that 100%, that wife or husband, because they can, instead of saying to you like, oh, I agree, they're a pain, oh, they drive me nuts or whatever. Sometimes these wives or husbands will protect them in a way that you're like, wow, I mean, you don't see it.
Yeah.
They do see it, but they also know what's under there. They know why that person is, maybe afraid to engage with others or to be, or trust,
And that's the thing. If they're giving them somewhere in the 90s to 100 at home, outside you might be giving out 20 to 30% to people.
Yeah, because if you've given your 100 to one person, mm-hmm. and they've held it to such a, they really held it in a way that that makes you feel safe. I mean, I don't know, man. That's a great life, right? To come home and be you're safe. You're home. You're safe. I know a lot of people who are not safe when they get home.
Dude,
they enjoy life outside better than they do when they come home.
The thing that's funny is in this world now, everybody's always talking about creating safe spaces for you, just because people are trying to figure out how to have interpersonal relationships again, which is one thing where we grew up in a time frame where that was a norm. You had relationships. But now people are trying to figure it out so much. And we need a safe space. That's what people used to do back then. They would create safe spaces at their own homes.
Right.
You would go in somebody's home and it's like, oh, man, I never pegged you as a guy who collected cows. And you're like, that's what I do to keep my home life.
Marriages back then were funny. I mean, people like to explain them as if, people were just stuck together. Mm-hmm. They were raising kids and, they had no choice, and they didn't divorce because, the church told you not to or whatever. I mean, I feel like they're doing it a disservice, for what these people really did. Really, they went through the same problems that we all went through, that we're all going through currently in all generations. But I really believe that it's too easy to say, well, it was different then. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's really different? When people are having a hard time together, I think people give up way too easy, in relationships. And they give up way too easy because they're not willing to give enough of themselves. At least 75%.
Dude, I said that.
I would say that's enough.
I said that to a few friends, family members, and everything. It's like, well, I said, well, how much are you giving up of yourself? I would ask them when I was younger, how much you giving up? I tell her a lot of stuff. I was like, no, you didn't hear what I said. There's a moment where you got to realize, like,
because life isn't stories.
Yeah,
life is not all about stories and past stories and stuff. The part you're talking about is in here.
Yeah.
And the things that you might, need some help with and you never talk to anyone about. Maybe it isn't that, but it's definitely in the heart. If you're not given that and taking yourself down a notch or two, I mean, you're just going to bang heads constantly and you probably won't make it,
And there's going to be moments where you want to talk freely and you feel, trust me and my wife talk about a lot of stuff and I've opened up a lot more over the years. And there's moments where I come and I literally just, we've all been in that moment where you just like, they turn around, you just want to, and you just can't get words to come out of your face because you have something that you want to share.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't want this person to think of this. I don't want them to think of that. I don't want to, let's keep it on a basic realm of this where even if you want to, let's say if you've been with somebody for 10, 15 years and sexually you maybe want to try something different. You might be scared just to speak about that because, because you start thinking, well, what if they think I got this from somewhere else or somebody else? Or I was thinking, or maybe, and in your mind, you're like, well, I was watching some things. And then
that's a big one, what you just said. I'm glad you said that because I wouldn't even have thought of that, but I know that that's, a really important thing. I would suggest that, here's the thing. You'll see sometimes people will split. They spent 15 years, 20 years together. They'll get into a new relationship. And they're doing things, that, like the other spouse says, why didn't you do that with me? I mean, why? It's because you're not giving enough. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're at 50%.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you enjoy something, who's safer than the person that you're doing it with or that you want to do it with, who's safer to tell than them? And, I mean, listen, if you feel like you're going to be judged, maybe you're with the wrong person, to be honest with you. I mean, I think
That's facts.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
If
you're afraid to share, especially, in the bedroom, what you might want to experiment and have fun with. Now, obviously, you don't want to get crazy. I mean, you don't want to bring the neighborhood in. But,
unless that's what
or, unless they say, okay, And usually you regret that, I'm sure, if you bring in others. But, again, no judgment, right? We're not a judgment spot here, but I'm talking about myself.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, I mean, a lot of relationships struggle with that, right? Because you feel like, I mean, that's really not a good thing.
I mean, what also is crazy is some people, let's say y'all both come into a relationship from day one and you're only both given 50% and you're happy with that.
Right.
And let's say after 10, 15 years, the other person's like, I want to give you another 15%. And the person receiving it, giving it might be like, oh, that's easy for me. Eventually they hit that point where they want to give more. But you also got to remember the person has to receive it.
Yeah.
So sometimes as a person giving, you have to be conscious of a person receiving. Like, think of it like this. If you're a quarterback and you're right-handed and you know the type of spiral you throw, you're going to throw it to the receiver and you want to put the ball in the best position for them to catch it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not always just about getting it to him, because some people are like, well, I threw him the ball, but you didn't give it to him in a way he can really catch it.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
You put it behind him, you put it in the back, you throw it at the ground, I mean, like McNabb. And you know what I mean? You
I don't even know if they remember
him.
Donovan McNabb, man,
I'm not even going to get into how much.
What are we going back, 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I
there's...
didn't realize that. That is. I'm sorry.
So Donovan McNabb was...
he threw at the
he was a quarterback of the Eagles.
And he was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He would get it in the vicinity of your body.
Oh, he was amazing,
Just not always.
Yeah,
in the
he
place
was an amazing athlete, all across the board. But, he just... there was 25% of him, and it was all mental. There was that mental side where, there was something that he wasn't giving to the game.
And yes, and that's the thing. In your mind, you have to realize when you do give, you also have to put it in a way where the person you're with can receive.
Yeah.
So receiving another percentage of somebody, you can't always give them 15 straight. Sometimes you got to give them the extra percentage you want to give them in little pieces here and there. You got to let it load up slowly so that they can even take it in. So for me, it's like, I think one of the things me and my wife learned over the years was, because when I decide to give, it's like, okay, here, take all this. Like, I'm a dumper. I come in, here, you want it? Here you go. Here
you
it
ask
is.
for it.
But I had to learn over the years, like, everybody can't. I can take it that way.
Yeah.
Everybody can't do that. So I had to learn from my wife, okay, piece it out here and there.
Yeah.
Small, smaller amounts. Oh, I can give a chunk here. Let me give you a little chunk right here. Okay, no, fall back on it. But that also comes down to, like, that's the fun of marriage, I think.
It is, yeah.
Some of the parts are fun of you figuring out how to give.
Yeah.
How to receive.
Well, how much of your, how much did your marriage change you, man? For me, it was immense, man. It was huge change.
It's a lot.
I mean, all for the better, to be honest with you. I mean, she brought out, it's probably in my marriage, it was the first time I was not forced, that's the wrong word, but let's just use that word because I can't think of another one. Right. Forced to be, in conversations that I, would always have been uncomfortable being in, Never really found myself,
force is the right word.
Yeah, yeah.
And
when you're faced with those, hard questions, that a lot of times men don't, even ask themselves. It changes your life, man. It can.
What's crazy is in our relationship, I would say I'm more the one who always posed the questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My wife, she is not an open book. With me, I had a percentage I was willing to give to her. With her, it was different. Like, outwardly, like to everybody else, it's like, oh, she's very nice. She is very nice, but she is very guarded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my wife, it took me years to be like, okay, here, I'll tell you this. She'll trust me with a lot of information, but for me to get the stuff that was needed for us to get married, that's why we didn't get married for 6 years.
Yeah.
We dated for 6 years because I was like, I need some of this stuff. You have to unearth some of this. I got to see this before I can make that commitment.
So my wife is very open. I mean, she's really open. I mean, she just is, and that's a great thing about her. And the neat thing about her too, which is like, it's almost like a superpower, man. I didn't have to tell her a lot. She can see it.
Yeah.
She knows, I didn't, a lot of things I told her was because, it seemed safe, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it ended up being safe, She's a very caring person, and she knows that, there's things, growing up that sometimes you don't get over. It doesn't matter how old you get.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you talk about it. Probably I'd tell the story in a funny way, but never really get to the deep feelings of the story. So, but that's what she's really great at. I mean, she sees it, and she waits for it, and she, and my wife knows, probably more than 75%, but there because of the safety, and because I knew that so much of my life she understood. I mean, my wife's, had a lot of things in her own life, so it's pretty amazing when two people who had, some things to deal with, when they're open enough, those two people can help each other so much. It's the people who have had a difficult past who want to hide it away and judge on everyone else, and I see that sometimes too. That really makes it tough.
And you know what's crazy? I would always say, like, the relationships I always kind of admired, and I always looked at them like, oh, that's dope, how you do it. Like, the ones who, you ever see those people who look like those older folks who look like they've been together for 50 years, and not the ones who are just happy and just sit there quietly all day. Those ones are unique, but the ones that are really good are the ones who sit there and they can bicker. Yeah, and they bicker,
but then they'll hold hands, right, when they walk away.
Oh, dude, they love each other to death, and they but that's the thing. It's like they're really fun to watch.
You know why? Because it's so real, right? Yeah, I mean, that's so real. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think that does that to everyone. I bet you everyone who's watching this has had that feeling. And it's not that you want it or whatever, but it is beautiful because that is a successful life.
Dude,
you can argue. But you know what? When you stand up and you help your wife up and you don't let her hand go and you walk with her, I got to be honest with you. I'm not a big hand holder, so I'm not acting like I'm that person. But you know what? That is a beautiful thing, and those are the kind of people you should walk up to, right? And you say, "Hey, got a minute? I could use a little bit of information from you. Help me, learn this."
They always open up with a joke. Yeah, they don't care,
And you know what's funny? And the wife laughs because she just loves to hear, his jokes and stuff. And you just think like, wow, man.
I don't ever want anything, wife, partner, whatever you're in the situation you're in. But I never want, because I'm speaking from my perspective with me and my wife. But there's always usually two separate emotional sides. You got one person who's super emotional, one who's not. Always give respect to the person who has to receive information, process. Like my wife is, like I said, I might start conversations, but sometimes my wife makes me dip deeper into the emotional side of it. She's not good at starting the conversation. Yeah. She don't want to start a conversation about something super deep most of the time. I'll start the deep one, but she definitely finishes it. In that moment, she definitely guides me even through it. Yeah. I'll hit a point where I know how I am, man. I'll hit a point in the conversation where I'm like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, no, I don't know what you're saying, but you know what I'm saying. No, it's like, nah. Say it. Like, she makes me say
Get it
stuff.
Out. Say it
say
so that we,
it out loud. Over the year, but at the same token, don't get me wrong.
I think that's what I was saying about being forced into, like your buddies won't do that to you.
Oh, no, not at all.
And again, I hate to say that word forced because it sounds like, it's forceful. It's not. Saying that you're forced, to face something or to continue a conversation that you wouldn't, normally get that deep into is usually because you're with somebody who is, it's the opposite of force. It's safety. You just kind of know it's okay. It's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. So we're talking about, relationships that are right. I don't know. And the first thing, I love that you put percentages into this because it's easy to think in terms of percentages. So, I have a friend, and he's gone now. Mm-hmm. He died, and him and his wife. I'd known him my entire life. He was a neighbor. Some of the people that are watching this as I go, they'll know who I'm talking about, and they'll feel the same way that I'm feeling right now. He was flawed. He was a wacky guy and all. His wife knew him like no one else knew him. Yeah. But yet we all knew him pretty close to as much as his wife knew him. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was just that kind of friend where, he just didn't worry about it, Kids loved him. You know, laughed all day. You know, this guy would just make, you know, jokes and dance, and, you know, he made the babies, you know, it made them giggle from the time they were babies until the time they were in their, you know, teens. So he went out to work one day. His wife always would laugh. He'd joke around. Sometimes the joke was on her.
Yeah.
She'd giggle and laugh, but she knew that it was in love. Yeah. You know, they were enjoying their circle of family, and they just had a great thing. You'd walk in the house and you knew it. So he went to work one day, and he didn't make it home. He had he was a driver, and his truck, they had an accident, and he didn't make it home. So everybody went to the house, you know, to see his wife, who we love like you wouldn't believe, and we loved him like you wouldn't believe. It's actually tough to get through, but so I talked to her, and you know what she said to me? Of all the things that you could say, the worries that you could have, right? What am I going to do now financially? You know, what am I going to do? How are my kids going to, you know, whatever? She said, you know, he always made me laugh. I don't know if I'll ever laugh like I used to.
And that's.
It was like she was speaking another language to me, and I'd heard it for the first time. And I was like, even though I didn't expect it, I knew exactly what she meant. And you know what? That is about as rare a relationship as you can find, where you say, you know, they made me laugh every day.
Dude,
it's you know, it's heavy, but a lot of times we get heavy, right?
No, yeah.
And that's where you see, and the only reason why that came up, and I don't want to take over on this, but the only reason it came up was because of the idea of that older couple, and they would have been that couple. They'd have been that couple holding hands and laughing, and he'd have made a joke about his wife, and she would have giggled before you did because you weren't sure if it was okay. And that is like that's where. It's just such a success, man. Such a success. And that's the beauty of marriage. And it doesn't start out that way. It's a work, and you give that little bit more of your 25%, but it takes a long time. And then when you get there, if you stick together, you're there.
Dude, and that's another thing. I remember when one of the things me and my wife was just talking about this the other day was I was like, you also have to get in a position where in your relationship that you want to give a percentage of what you already have. This is just stocked up stuff.
Yeah.
But you also have to know that when I marry this person, we have to grow to get like.
Yeah,
so
and you need the room to grow.
Might not be where you end at. What you wanted when you first met 15, 10, 20 years from then. They might not want nothing to do with that. I mean, it could be as simple as a career switch, too. Right. And some people say, well, that's not a big deal. They want to change jobs. Oh, it is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
Where you say, what I used to do, I made $70,000 a year. What I'm about to do, I'm going to make $25,000 this year. But I really want to do it, and it's my passion. And you have to look at a person and say, either okay or let's figure out another route to do it, but you have to figure out how to pivot together. And some people might say, man, that's when it gets hard. It is when it gets hard, but it's honestly when it gets fun. And it sucks to say it that way because some people are like, well, you're saying being poor for a minute is fun? Yeah, it sucks. Trust me, it sucks, and you completely feel it. Yeah. You feel all those changes, but if you don't do it, you never quite understand who each other are. You never see each other. If you don't struggle together in some capacity, you just don't get to that point. Like, that's one of the pet peeves, but when they show it on TV, it always annoys me, but then it's like you're supposed to hate that character. When they always show the girlfriend who leaves the person or the guy who leaves the person because they don't want to struggle with them. And they literally say, I didn't get into this to struggle. And it's like, well, that is life. At some point, the bubble I created might pop. And if we can't get through and create new bubbles, I'm glad you kind of left me before.
I can't tell you how many times that people say that when they were in a struggle, you think the struggle is the hardest part of life, but you sometimes a lot of times you look back and you go, wow, the struggle was when we were at our best.
Yeah.
You're working together, doing something. You're believing in something that may not happen, or listen. a career change is huge. What you're talking about, that's really, really big. Some people do act like it's not. But the kind of career change you're talking about is the idea that you might be coming home happy with less money than unhappy and miserable in a home with more money. Yeah. That does not help any relationship. The idea that more money and being unhappy is going to make it, is not real.
Yeah.
When you can bring happiness into the house and you make a little bit less money, you're actually bringing so much more wealth into that house. It's unbelievable.
And that's how you laugh every day. That's something.
Yeah.
That's out of a lot of things I've learned from just watching my dad navigate through having a sick wife and all that. Like, one of the things I learned was, like, I became one of the biggest reasons why I picked comedy as a career. Yeah. As the way I make all my money and everything. That's something I was actually, like I said, talking to my wife about this yesterday, was I always wanted to be able to go to stuff. Like, if I have kids, I wanted to be able to show up to everything. Yeah. Like, not to say that my dad he did the best he could. The plan was my dad was going to work and show up to stuff when he can, and my mom was going to be able to stay home, take care of the kids. Yeah. And show up to mostly everything. You know what I mean?
And that's big too. That he did, because he could have said he was too tired, but it still sometimes isn't enough.
He wasn't able to execute that because my mom got sick. Yeah. And one of the things I said to myself was,
getting a call.
With everything was, let me.
Let's shut that baby off here. Hang on one second. All right. Come on.
Your phone always acts up when you don't need it to.
Yeah, what's going on here? Hey, why is that doing that? It's either somebody keeps calling over and over or what? Hey, Stace. You still got that thought?
Yeah, I'm
started over again.
I'm sitting still.
What the hell, man? I'm gonna shut it off. Should have done that in the beginning.
Yeah. No. One of the things that that was so dope about growing up. It was hard. It was kind of one of the parts that sucked a little bit. Was that my dad? Like I said, he worked, and my mom was supposed to be the stay-at-home mom. Right. You know what I mean? That was literally the plan. She would go to everything. My dad would show up to stuff when he can, and of course, like, since my mom was sick, she couldn't show up to stuff. Yeah. And my dad would come there as often as he could, but it was hard because he had to work. He was a teacher. He worked full time. He also was a pastor, so he was doing so much other stuff. He was doing so much stuff.
Wow, he was,
you know what I mean? And everything. So most of the time he was just drained. You know what I mean? And he would still show up to stuff, but it's like, all right, okay, well, what time is the game? Yeah. Okay, it's right before Bible study. Okay, I'll come for half an hour and then I go to Bible study. So,
but you want to give, with all that, you want to give more.
Well, my child, I was like, if my wife, I said, what do you want to do? She said, well, I want to do this. I said, okay, you at least have to do this for this amount of years. Now, if you want to change, you can change at any moment. And we'll adjust. But I said, now, let me know what you want to do. With every step of life, I always ask my, what do you want to do? And she said, well, I want to do this. Okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll do that. Okay, at least for the next year, we kind of both got to lock into what we kind of do a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean if you change, it's like, oh, you ruined the whole plan. Mm-hmm. So we had parameters. I said, now with the child coming, my wife is in a more position where she likes where she's at, what she's doing. She's pivoting slowly, but we can pivot, and she's been transitioning in and out of certain things. You know what I mean? Her own businesses, whatever. But I always said I wanted to be a full-time comic because I want to be able to come home to my child. You know what I mean? And do everything during the week. I want to take care of the baby. I said, I'm cool with that. Yeah. I said, and that's one of the things I really love, the time frame where my dad was home. It was great. When he had because he had and I speak about this in the book, when he had to go out on disability for a second because he hurt his back, and it was great, and it was great timing because that was also one of the most important parts of my life. And as a comic, especially if you build your career correctly, let's say everything's going good, a few movies deep, whatever, you got money. Okay, I'm taking a break for 3 years just to raise my kids. Yeah, like that's the thing that I can do.
And you can take gigs around. I mean, you can turn down gigs. I mean, comics are
open.
Yeah, open. I mean, for the most part, they're offered work, and if you can take it, you take it. Mm-hmm. If not, you don't. And that doesn't change even when you get as the career grows, which I know for a fact that yours will, and it is. But so it is it can be, in the end, you might say to yourself, it was the greatest thing I've done, is to put.
It was a little bit of a plan since I was a kid and I knew I had a talent in it.
Yeah.
But also, it was like one of the, I really just wanted to be around. Like I wanted to be able to say at any moment. I mean, and trust me, just so y'all know, when comics have to do this, it does hurt.
Yeah.
But you know how much it's worth. If somebody comes to you, hey man, I got X amount of dollars for this gig. Oh, I can't. My kid got to play a basketball game.
But see now,
that's great.
Back to percentages. That is, the relationships we were talking about. Percentages, 75. Whatever it may be. If you're doing 50, I think you're probably really messing up. But with kids, you're talking about 100%.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
Close to 100
that's what you're, that's what you're, again, that's why I was so glad that you said percentages, because it's so easy to look at life in those numbers. You know what I mean? You're talking about being 100% dad, working, in a way where your child is going to know that you can be there. There's always going to be that time here or there. I mean, every parent has that. But
I know I ain't going to see everything. But
yeah.
I don't need to quote unquote see every moment, but I do want to be available for everything.
Yeah.
I want to be
for all the big moments.
Yeah,
I mean, and they happen all the time, and a lot of them only happen once, and they're hard to miss. I mean, we all miss a few of them, and I wouldn't suggest that anybody should be, beat themselves up over it. But you want to be there to more big ones than not. Yeah. So, because I think we're running out of time here.
Yeah, we got to wrap this one up.
So I guess what is our thoughts on? I think I'm agreeing with you with the 75%.
75%
Yeah.
is
I think
the
so.
mark. Yeah,
but still not don't put that 25% and lock it up in a vault somewhere. I mean, you then take your relationship to the next level. No matter how many years you have, you still have that ability to kind of to step up.
Your goal is to, and this is the difference between people who, I get it, if you go to therapy, whatever, but your goal is to make it so that way the people who are together or you're with in your relationship with, get as close to 100 as you feel comfortable with, and get as close to 100 as they feel as comfortable accepting. You know what I mean? But I think 75 to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
75%,
a year or two into it at 75, I think you're really doing it. Yeah.
Is really that
if you can't get past 50, I mean, I would say, and I'm not trying to give anybody any advice that they wouldn't like, but if you can't get past 50 and you're years into a relationship, I think you probably are in the wrong relationship.
That might not be it. You know what I mean? If the person, and like I said, if the person can't accept over 50,
well,
and you
then
want to give more. You're definitely in a. That's almost like.
Well, that's when you'll get beat up. Emotionally beat up. Yeah. I mean, but we just the reason we talk about these things is because a lot of people don't believe that guys have these thoughts, right? A lot of times guys don't have the opportunity to talk about them. I'm lucky enough to have met Chris, he's a similar thinking guy, and we have a good time doing it.
What's funny is when I do these podcasts, I can do the funny ones. I also say, I tell jokes all the time, but when I get into the deep ones, when I'm on the best is when I'm on other people's podcasts and they get into a heavy conversation.
Yeah,
they bring in an expert, and then I'm sitting there next to them. And I'm like, I have thoughts. And
yeah.
You're here for the
you have thoughts?
I have thoughts. Maybe the psychiatrist or whatever.
I know.
He's making good points, man.
I know.
And then afterwards we're talking and he's giving me stuff about his life. I'm like, so you're going to flip it on me like that, right? Which I enjoy talking about this stuff. But honestly, man.
Listen, guys should talk, man. Guys should talk. That's one of the major things. Listen, again, we have fun doing all kinds of things. These kind of topics are going to come up once in a while, so expect them. But, we encourage that, man. We encourage guys to talk, and,
this is true.
It is what it is.
It's funny when the old current president said at one point, this is how locker room talk. This is truly what locker room talk was.
Yeah, it is.
And this is what y'all think, like, for some reason people think the locker room talk is all
fart jokes and women.
Nonsense. I mean, it comes up.
Yeah. But I mean, I like a good fart joke. Don't get me wrong.
If you listen to what we were talking about, women came up most of it. But from a perspective that you'd be surprised about, most dudes in locker rooms, most dudes who are around, they gather after a while. These conversations come up more often than
we all have a best friend, right? And so if you only have one friend, you do talk to that friend, in a way that no one else gets to hear. And I really, a lot of times I feel I don't like the way men are portrayed, to be honest with you. And I'm not like it doesn't matter to me because, I'm only one guy and there's many millions they can deal with their life as they go. But I don't like being, the blanket idea that, that men are just this way. You know what I mean? So, you're right. You can go outside and you could be that old crotchety, mean guy. But, that guy comes home to somebody. And that person stuck with him for 40, 50, 60 years. And when you ask them, to say, when you want to tell something bad about them and you expect that they're going to agree with you and they tell you you don't know him like I do, that is, that's the life of one of many real men. Some are more open, some aren't. But men are not just blanket. You can't explain them the way, I think a lot of people do currently.
What's crazy? As time moved on, back in the day, and I'm at this current state, the reason why I'm giving 75% and we've settled like that 70 to 80% margin is because
man, you bumped it up to 80, man.
Well, I said 70 to 80%.
Well, you're
margin.
having a baby.
It's
you're having a baby.
Margin there for of acceptance of what you should give. But the reason why back in the day, though, if you would have asked me if this was the same conversation that took place in the 90s, I would say you only need 60%. But also because social media was different.
Yeah.
A lot of things, the access to information was different.
And you were younger, too.
You could also give out, well, not just me, myself, I'm saying in general.
Oh, in general,
there was a time frame where if this was the 70s or 80s, you can give out 50%, and that was enough. And then at that time, 50% was a lot of percentage of getting to know a person.
Yeah, it was.
Because nothing you did 2 years ago would ever be brought up again. You know what I mean? You never had to think about it.
You could put it away and it was gone.
You know what I mean? As long as you didn't have a VD, it was good. But we got to end this, though. It's the East Rose Podcast, man. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe, hit the notification button, man. At Cotton215 on everything. ChrisCottonComedy.com. There you go, Tony.
Come back again, man. This was the East Rose Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you later.
You crazy mother.
The East Rose Podcast.
Are you listening? You crazy mother.
Deep, huh?
It was 20 plus.
Yeah.